In today's video, we're going to talk about how to actually learn to draw comics, how to learn to make comics, and I'm going to give you some of my recommendations. So making a comic is way more than just the artwork you're seeing and the balloons on the page. If you know the basics of drawing, that's a big plus, but then there's way more to think about because a comic consists of very, very different kind of steps, and you as a comic artist wear a lot of hats. So you need to be able to tell a really good story, you need to be able to draw, and then if you're doing a comic with inks and color, like those are all like different art skills that you need, and then you need to design the characters, design their costumes. So you're basically the character designer, the background designer, you're the story artist and everything. Like if you're doing the entire comic process yourself, like for example I am doing and a lot of webcomic artists are doing, then you kind of need to be very versatile. And of course you're going to have things that you're very good at, things you can learn more about. The good thing about like this day and age is that you can learn all of these things on your own. And that can be a bit messy. You need to be able to find out what is good information and what is not. I've seen so many coloring tutorials, for example, on the internet that just say like, well, your shadows always need to be cool and your highlights always need to be warm. And I'm like, who says that? There's no, like, people put in rules everywhere because that is what works for them. But, in art, there's not that many rules. I mean, if you want to do something super realistic, obviously you have to, work with anatomy. You have to get knowledge about all kinds of things and how things work, in space and in 3D. But there's, like, every single rule can be broken. Almost every single rule can be broken. So how do you fabricate your own art education and your own comic education? Well, nowadays there's so many books, so many videos, there's YouTube channels. You can do online courses, obviously, and there's all kinds of information. There's a lot of people on social media who share their knowledge freely, so if you be able to find those people, then that can be really helpful. Every single step in the comic process, I want to give you one recommendation. These are books and some like people to follow, and I think those are very good starting points. I think those are very good resources that you can look at. And after those recommendations, I want to share a way where you can save a lot of time and a lot of effort in trying to find all the good resources. So definitely stay tuned for that. So a very, very well-known resource about making comics in general that talks about all of the steps is Scott McCloud. This is my favorite book of him. I know a lot of people recommend Understanding Comics, which is one of his other books, but I really liked Making Comics. It was a little bit more practical. For me, it's kind of hard to get through education through pictures. It's because I like to read and hear like language kind of stuff. But this is a really like visual book that has a lot of explanations and very, very many examples of like all kinds of things that relate to comic making. So this is definitely a book. If you want to get into making comics, this is definitely a book that I would get. Scott McCloud, Making Comics. For story, it's one of the first things that you're going to be thinking about. For story, these are my two favorite books. I use them in combination with each other when I come up with a new story. I usually start with a method that's talked about in Invisible Ink called the story spine. I have a video about that. It's the one with the shark plushie in the thumbnail. But this is a really great book. You can see like I highlighted so much stuff. It talks about story, what story is, what story does, and how to get to the core of your story, which is very important. And then it has that nice skeleton in the form of the story spine in it. So very, very nice to get to the basics. And then you have, this is the wrong one. Wait a second, I'll be back. Yep, I'm back again. It's this book, Save the Cat. This is a sequel. This is like all kinds of story structures for different movies, which is fun, but it's not the book that I'm talking about. This is the book that I'm talking about. Save the Cat by Blake Snyder. You can recognize it by it being like white instead of having the theater. This is like the white one with the cat hanging on a rope. Save the Cat by Blake Snyder. This is a story structure that's used very, very often in movies. It's a bit heavy on the screenwriting advice. Like he will talk very much about what needs to happen on what page of your screenplay and stuff, but you can just ignore this. I use it to structure my stories. There's a framework in here He also talks about genre a lot, which is really nice. But he has a framework in this book that really helps you to map out your big story points, your story beats. It's called the beat sheet, and it's really helpful. It's how I structure my stories. This is my favorite story structure. Start your comic pages with a thumbnail, and then you're going to start thinking about composition. Where you're going to put your panels, how you're going to arrange them on the page, but also where to put your word balloons and where your artwork goes. So one of the best books I've read about composition is Framed Ink. This is a really, really great book. It's by Mateu-Mestre. I'm not sure if I pronounced his name correctly. I also have made a video about this book, but it's really graphic. And he really focuses on how to get a good reading image and how to convey what you want to convey, like how to convey the emotion and the atmosphere. You know, he has these really nice methods of working. For example, here, you can see that he just condenses the entire composition and the flow of the image into two very tiny and very easy kind of like simple representations of what the actual image is. And if you kind of follow these very clear structures, then your image will read well. So this is a really, really great book that I recommend for learning more about composition. And then you need to design your characters and design like things in your world and designing your world in general. You need to design props, you need to design costumes. And when it comes to design, there's two people I want to recommend. And the first is Mitch Leeuwe. You can find him on Instagram, Mitch Leeuwe, which is Leeuwe. And he does a lot of design tutorials, like basic design, like how to think in shapes, how to work with shapes. It's a very, very good account to follow. He has a lot of tips. He also sells ebooks where he compiles all of his tips. The other person I want to recommend is Steven Silver. Steven Silver actually started a design. He started a school for designing and character designing. He focuses and specializes on character design. He also has a book about character design, Steven Silver, The Silver Way. And it talks all about character design. It's very nice. You know, and he's really focused on like shapes and turning shapes into characters and how to make them appealing and everything. So this is definitely a book I recommend as well. And you can check out his course or his academy, I think it is. I think he started the Silver Academy. That's something you can check out on his website. And all of the links to this and the names and stuff are in the description below. Now, drawing. Drawing is a very, very broad subject. There's all kinds of channels you can follow on YouTube, 20 million books about drawing, how to draw everything. It really depends on your comic, kind of what kind of drawing you gravitate towards. If you want to do accurate anatomy, there's Proco, which is a channel on YouTube. But there's also more like the design stuff that we talked about. What I find really helpful in terms of drawing many different things is this series. How to Think When You Draw by the Ethering brothers. This is actually, I now see that is just Lorenzo. It's one of the two brothers who did this one. But this series, How to Think When You Draw, you can get this on Kickstarter very often, where they have they have so many books right now. I only have the first one, which is already very, very awesome, and I definitely want to get the other ones as well. But they regularly do Kickstarters where you can get these, but you can also see all of these tutorials that are in these books. Like, for example, this is about doing vehicles, and like they have a lot of themed stuff, and then how kind of they approach drawing all of these many different things. I know that their comics are often full of like everything, and everything is so well drawn, and they have such a nice spontaneous style. You can kind of see it on the back as well, all of these kinds of different examples. You can find all of these tutorials for free. That's what I wanted to say, and I'm going to link to that as well in the description. It's just really nice to just have this on your table when you're drawing. So I definitely recommend the books as well. About coloring, there's also so many resources. There's so many YouTube channels. For example, Color with Kurt is one of the YouTube channels that I follow. But a book that I found really helpful about coloring is this one. It's really helpful to understand color. This is Color and Light by James Gurney. And he has just really, really amazing explanations about how color works and atmosphere and, you know, color theory and lighting and all of the good stuff. This is a really, really, really helpful book to go through when you want to understand color better. Honorable mention is this book, Dream Worlds by Hans Bacher. This is a really, really beautiful book that's just full of great pictures. Hans Bacher worked on a lot of animated features as well, for which he shares concept art, but he also shares some technique on how to actually practice your art in general, but mostly your sense of color and value and stuff. And he goes through how to actually set up a good image, and it's just really beautiful inspiration as well. So that's also a book I highly recommend. So you can kind of gather all of these books, all of these resources, YouTube channels, Instagram channels, all that you can think about. A much quicker way to learn something is doing a full course of it. That's something that I really prefer to do in a lot of cases. I've done a really thorough course on composition. I've done a really thorough course on color. And I also apply it to stuff in my business. I did a course that was all about how to grow a successful YouTube channel. And it really, really helped. And it worked. I gained like 600 subscribers in 1 year. Before I would get one every 2 months. So yeah, that was really, really helpful. And I did a course for my Kickstarter. Like I had a full-on course that took me through the entire Kickstarter process. It was super, super helpful. The nice thing about doing courses is that I always have this issue when I try to figure out stuff by myself, and I do 500 million things, and then I never really finish anything because I never take one path and follow through on it. I just try so many different things and I'm everywhere at the same time, which is not really helpful. And a course just gives me a framework, like this is what you need to do in this and this and this order, and this is what you do first, and then this is what you do, and this is what you need to be focused on, and this is not important, you know, all of that stuff. And that really, really helps me and gives me structure. If you take a course, you do the work, you know, results will happen because you have a path that you go down instead of doing a lot of different disconnected things. And that is why I wanted to recommend, if you're actually serious about making comics and making comics for a long time, if you want to start making comics, if you want to save time, not doing 20 million things, and just follow a single path down the line, which will result in you creating a comic, then I recommend checking out my Kickstarter for my course that's new. How to Start a Comic is a course that will take you from scratch, like blank page, through the entire process of creating a comic. So the first module is all about coming up with good ideas, how to actually brainstorm for ideas, how to, you know, generate ideas easily, and then how to put things together, coming up with more ideas, and then slowly going to story. So module 2 is all about story. It's very thorough. We're going to talk about story structure, about, you know, getting to the core of your story, making sure there's not any fluff in your story, and, you know, character development, villains, side characters, everything. And then we're going to dive into design. So how do you design a good comic character that doesn't get tedious to draw all the time, because your characters are going to be drawn all the time. How to design your world, what to think about when you're designing stuff and designing your world. Again, we're going to also, like in between, we're going to talk about workflow. What's a good workflow? What's a good system? How to work on your comic systematically, how to figure out how big your comic's going to be, what kind of style you're going to use, and all of that good stuff. And then module 4 is all about how to create a comic page. So thumbnails, drawing, inking, coloring, all of the all of the good stuff, lettering, of course. So yeah, it's a very thorough course. I'm very proud of it, and it will help you save time. So you don't have to figure it all out by yourself. That's what I'm saying. Like all of the stuff that I'm teaching in the course is stuff that I gathered, like what I just told you. Like I put together my entire own education, like on my own, like by just consuming everything about comics that I could get my hands on. So my entire course is a very big melting pot of everything that I've learned over the last years and how I started my own comic, like my longer comic. I made comics before, but this is my first really long comic project that I'm doing right now. Put my course based on. I was like, I was really struggling with starting my comic. I didn't necessarily know where to find the right information, and I just needed some extra info in my art education to make sure that I could start with confidence. That is what I want to give you in the course. I want to help you save time. I want to help you get results. I want to help you make up a good story and really go through the entire process of preparing your comic so you're ready to start your comic pages, and help you avoid all the unnecessary stuff and get you to making your comic pages as soon as possible. So you can back the course on Kickstarter. I did a crowdfunding Kickstarter for it. There's some stuff that will go away when the Kickstarter ends. For example, the price. The price is an early bird 50% discount. So if you want to get into the course, now is the time. It will also have 6 live sessions, like a monthly live session for 6 months, that I'm probably not going to do again afterwards, because now it's still kind of like a small group and now I can really do that. After that, the live sessions are going to go away. I will still be available in the Discord group, but I might not do live sessions where I can actually give you personalized feedback. So that will go away. You can also get a lot of bonus content if you back on the course tier. You get all the tiers beneath it, which is ebooks, comic workshop, and comic YouTube videos exclusively for backers. So all of that stuff you can get in my Kickstarter, not afterwards. So if you want to make your own comics, and if you want to start making your comics this year, then I definitely recommend getting into the course now while you can, because the doors are going to be closed for a while after the Kickstarter, because I'm going to deliver the course, set everything up, do all of those live sessions and stuff. So the course will be closed after the Kickstarter for a little while, and then afterwards it's going to be a higher price as well, and the live sessions are going to go away. So go to howtostartacomic.com and back the Kickstarter and get into the course now while you can. So that was all I had to share with you today. I really hope you liked the video and that it was helpful. What are your favorite comic resources? I would love to hear about them in the comments, so leave a comment. Also like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't yet. For now, have a great day and make some comics.